Hi, I'm Amy Lohr, and this is a masterclass on enabling transformation. Focusing on transformation is really the work that I am doing in my coaching and energy healing practice, and integrating mindfulness skills, energy healing, as well as essential oils, depending on what people's needs and interests are. So today I'm just going to tease out some of the work that I do with individuals and hopefully provide you with some tools and practices that you can immediately integrate into your personal development work and the ways that you're trying to heal and grow on your own. And at the end, I'll share some information about the different packages that I'm offering if you're interested in working with me, and we'll go from that point. So, uh, the first thing to really think about when we're looking at transformation is really, where you're at right now and where you're starting. So, really just taking an inventory of what's happening in your life right now. Where are you dissatisfied? Where are you also satisfied? Where are you feeling depleted and not feeling fulfilled? Lack of fulfillment is a big indicator that there's some kind of imbalance, which isn't to be mistaken for feeling comfortable in life. It's that you're actually able to experience some degree of nourishment and sustenance and fulfillment through, whether it's your interactions with others, whether it's your job, whether it's just in the day-to-day uh, presence that you have in life, um, and really, any of those areas in your physical state of being, your emotional state of being. So being able to take a look at those different areas of your life and make an honest assessment. Honesty really is a big piece of it as well, because we can certainly utilize defense mechanisms like justification, denial, rationalization. So, really equipping yourself with the skills to kind of have an eagle's eye view and be an observer to yourself and look from the outside. And if you're not so skilled at being able to do that, one, you can reach out for some help with me, and I'm happy to help you with developing some of those mindfulness practices. But also, sometimes it takes getting perspective from other people close to you, or getting complete complete outsider's perspective. So, reading different books or listening to different content that challenges your way of thinking. Um, if we look at the world that we're kind of in right now, we are literally so isolated and so focused on our own way of thinking and being, and in our own little inner world and inner bubble, in quarantine and isolation. So it's even harder now than ever to get that perspective and to have an honest perspective, because we're so caught and stuck in our own um, singular experiences. So exploring different perspectives and ways of thinking that are beyond yours, because it's very easy to get stuck right now. Um, so making that, the first thing is making that assessment of where are you at, and making sure that you're honest and you're using different channels to support that honesty. And then we can go into looking at where you're headed. So what is it that you'd actually like to achieve? What are you looking for? Um, and I'm going to pause here and take a little sip of my tea. Practicing what I preach there with looking at what my needs are in this moment. It's easy to just talk and then not have a voice. So pausing and making those assessments and looking at what it is that I'm actually looking to accomplish here. And it's important as you're doing that you're also looking at your motives, because our motives might not always be pure, for lack of a better word. Or, maybe that's not even the right way to assess it, because motives are motives. They come from some aspect of your character, your personality, your past, your history, your culture. So we don't necessarily want to evaluate them as good or bad. They are directing forces and energies into your life. So how you can look at where you want to be and where you're headed, and within that, what's motivating those goals. Many times we don't do that. We get the clarity of, this is what I want, this is what I need, and we don't do the deeper exploration around this is actually what that's about for me. So it's important to actually take that time to look at those motives and really kind of dig into, what is this about for me? Because that's where we can find more of what I would describe as, our shadow or our subconscious kind of driving us forward and motivating us. And what I mean by shadow is aspects of our personality or ourself that is repressed and hidden from conscious awareness, but yet still active and still directing energy and directing thoughts and directing emotions. These can be results from traumatic experiences or stressful experiences in our life, where we just suppress either helpful or maybe challenging or unlikable aspects of our personalities, because those weren't useful at the time, or they weren't supported in being in existence by the people around us. So taking that time to actually look at what's motivating you enables you to take a deeper look at what aspects of my shadow here might subconsciously be motivating me and driving me. And you want to bring those more to conscious awareness, because if they remain in the subconscious, then now you have parts of you that are driving important decisions in your life, and that might not necessarily be what you're intending or wanting. So the more that we can be self-aware and recognize more intimately all the aspects of ourselves, our shadow and our light, the aspects of ourselves that others might judge as unlikable or undesirable, that we all have, as well as the aspects of ourselves that others might deem as light aspects or helpful or useful aspects of our personality. All of us have both aspects, and we need to get in better intimate relationship and awareness of those full spectrum parts of ourselves. So what motivates us and where we're headed? Starting to look at, and you're able to answer that question as well, where I'm headed or what I'm looking for, what my goals here are for transformation, by looking at some of the areas of depletion and the lack of fulfillment that you kind of did in the first step of where I'm at now. You'll get a better understanding of, oh, okay, this is where there's imbalance in my life. So I need to focus on these other areas to create some balance. We're so used to kind of getting in these different ruts where we channel our energy into one or two primary areas of our life. And usually that's because of survival. It's because of stress. We become maybe really work focused, or we become very driven from our emotional experience because we've had a lot of emotional intensity in our life and we've had a lot to survive from. And things become one dimensional, and we get this tunnel vision to those specific areas. And we need to learn how to continue to acknowledge and take responsibility for those areas, but then expand to the other aspects of who we are and the things that matter to us, and look at what's out of balance so we can start tweaking that and feeding some energy into those things as well. For instance, if we are very emotionally centered and tuned into our emotions all the time, and not exercising or not even thinking about eating, and certainly therefore not having much of a balanced diet or giving our body the fuel that it needs or the sleep that it needs, then there's an imbalance there. There's going to be disease and distress on all levels. So how we can take responsibility with that area where there's an imbalance of our focus and our energy. And conversely, maybe you're an individual who isn't as in tune with or taking time with their emotional experiences and focus more on work responsibilities or physical health and exercise. And maybe your relationships are a little bit more strained, or your emotional health is strained. You can't even say at this moment what you might be feeling or what your emotional state of being is. So that's a kind of the other end of the continuum if we're looking at examples there. And there's so many diverse ways that if you look at your life as kind of a pie chart and these several different areas of family and socialization and physical health and spiritual health and emotional and mental and career development, and then you take that whole pie and you map it out to how much of your life's focus is devoted to those areas, and then you map it out to what is your level of satisfaction in each of those areas, then you start to see a deeper picture of, wow, there are things out of balance here, and I need to actually experience change in my life. I need to do something different. So I need to reformulate this pie into more of a balanced perspective and more balanced energy into the different areas of my life. And that's where you're going to start to see a shift in fulfillment, a shift in experience, a shift in perspective. That's where you're going to start to see transformation. So we've talked about where you're at, where you're going. And then next, it's how do you get there? And each of these kind of build on one another. So the how do you get there requires resources, and it requires resources that are going to be either new and different resources, or it's going to be accessing old and familiar resources that maybe you're not utilizing. But ultimately, the how do you get there requires you to do things differently. And oftentimes it's going to feel like doing things radically different. So when you're approached with that kind of change and transformation, you're absolutely looking at acting from a place of courage to actually mobilize and move yourself forward to make transformation. So I talked about integrating essential oils into the work that I do, and I want to kind of bridge that into this talk as well. The essential oil that I'm featuring tonight is the Valor Essential Oil Blend, which is from the company Young Living. You can see the bottle there. And it has a very unique aroma and scent. I'm actually diffusing it here. It has essential oils in it that are black spruce, camphor, blue tansy, frankincense, and geranium. So it's a very unique, distinct blend. And we use this just for, what it says, to experience more of a sense of courage and valor and self-assuredness, self-confidence as we're approaching the things in our life. It also tends to to help you achieve more of a grounding state of being. So the earthy scents, as well as some of the balancing floral, the geranium notes, all assist with you feeling more in that state of being of groundedness, centeredness, self-assuredness. So to start you out on this journey of change and transformation, you're going to need to act in courage. There is a great book about, I'm going to be able to speak to the concept, and when I post this video, I'll also add the link in to this book. But I believe the title of the book is Just in 6 Seconds, or Only in 6 Seconds. I just thought of it now, so I didn't have it as a resource here to present to you. But the premise is that you kind of count to 6 and then you do the thing. So with all the things that we have resistance to, and usually this starts as soon as we wake up or before we wake up, our alarm goes off and we want to hit the snooze button. We want to avoid, we want to act from a place of avoidance from the very time that we wake up in the day. This is kind of like how we're trained in, you know, in our culture, you know, certainly in American culture. I know there's other cultures probably looking at this, but, you know, in American culture, like many of us tend to do that we wake up and we want to avoid, we want to resist what our first responsibilities are. And that really sets the tone for the day. Where we continue to avoid, we continue to resist. So, you know, the author of that book suggests, you know, counting to 6 and then doing it. You're not thinking about it. You're not evaluating doing it or not, or the pros or the cons. You know, in 6, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm doing. And that's not taking away the responsibility that we have or the consequences we have of our actions. So this isn't a sort of freedom to just be impulsive and reckless. It's about using this for the areas of resistance that you have in life. And automatically, there's going to be resistance when we're looking at change and transformation. That is just the law of nature. Look at nature around you. Look at plants and the elements. When there is change, there's resistance, there's pushback, because it is our nature to maintain the status quo. But it's also exactly in our nature to grow and transform, or else we will cease to exist and we will die off as a species. That is nature. So stagnation is death, lack of growth, lack of transformation, lack of evolution, lack of adaptability, and flexibility. All of that equals stagnation. You know, not proceeding from a place of flexibility, adaptability, and evolving your state of being, your state of consciousness, your perspective, your strength, your virtue, your way of being and understanding and relating. It's in our nature to continue to evolve and learn and grow and change. So if you're not experiencing a lot of change and transformation in your life, then you're experiencing stagnation. And when we experience stagnation, we experience distress and disease. Our body starts shutting down. Our body is more stressed. And really, a lot of that is at its core is the body's like, okay, you know, like I can't move, I can't grow, I can't evolve. I might as well kind of shut down and prepare for death. So you got to shift things a bit and shift your energy and direct it from that place of courage, you know, utilizing courage in order to take those steps. So what I love about that book is it's really just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's go and do it. You're not engaging the mind, you're not thinking about it, you're just taking that step forward. So if that's helpful for you, reach out to me. I will give my contact information. I will post the link to that book as well as a reference. It's just very simple concept, and she's really helped a lot of people throughout the world with that concept. So maybe that's useful for you. So how to get there? The first piece, how to get to a place of transformation and experience transformation. The first piece is to act from a place of courage. That and if we look at courage, what is courage? It is always uncomfortable. It always feels counterintuitive. There's always some resistance behind it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be courageous. It wouldn't feel courageous and, challenging to overcome and do the thing. And of course, depending on what resistance we're facing and what habits we're looking at changing and how long we've been trying to change it, how much courage we need or how much discomfort that courage feels could be different. But it's still courage, and courage is accessible to each and every one of you. So anything else that says that you can't is really a lie. If it's just a matter of not being courageous, that is a matter of will and mindset. It's a matter of choice, that I'm going to choose to act from this place and I'm going to choose to move forward. There's nothing more deficient in you than the other person. There is no deficiency there in you, keeping you from being courageous. It's simply a choice to act, to move, to mobilize. You're really just shifting your energy from being used in resistance to being used in mobilization and mobilizing you to move forward. So I say to people all the time who are looking at making changes and they have this resistance, they say, I just don't have the time or I can't do more. And I say, great. It's not about doing more. It's not about adding more to your plate. It's about doing differently. And it's about how you are redirecting energy from your negativity and your resistances to what is actually constructive. So to no longer destruct within your own self and constructively create in the world. And it is going to start from doing something that feels courageous. So if you're not uncomfortable, you're not going to be moving forward. And if you're waiting to get comfortable, you're never going to change and you're never going to move forward. It's not about feeling comfortable to transform and to change. It's going to feel quite uncomfortable. But each time that you make that movement, you now have that change under your belt. And you're working towards this, to establish more of that valor and courage and confidence, because I just have that one action under my belt. I just did that. So that little voice that comes in and says that I can't, you have further proof and evidence to say, actually, I just did. I just did this. And so I'm not going to believe your lies, little voice. I just did this and I can continue to do this. And even this next new thing that I've never done, I can believe in my self-confidence. I can believe in my confidence and ability because I didn't think I could do that last thing, but I did it. So it just keeps building and building and building these building blocks for you to have this energy and these roots and these structures underneath you to lift you up and move you forward into that process of transformation. So the key is to align that energy with what has the most integrity, to create boundaries with those inner voices and dialogues. And oftentimes that's linked to past histories and other people's voices and culture and all kinds of other systems that say, no, you can't, and beat you down and have created that history of negativity for you. So what we do, or what you can do throughout the work, and the how, is being able to honestly observe what's the roots to this resistance. What is this actually really about? Because I can identify that what I'm acting from here, and what this resistance is, and what that voice is. I can identify that that's destructive. So if there's something destructive there, then it's not appropriate. It's not helping you. And you're allowed to have boundaries around that and say, look, you know what? Hey, whatever's going on here, I'm not going to allow you to continue to be destructive in my life. I care about you, and I want to know what this is about. So as I speak to that inner dialogue that you can start to have, that's a lot of the mindfulness practices as well, is learning how to deepen your exploration of what's really happening here, and do so in a way that is compassionate and loving and kind, because there's no need to continue to be harsh or critical or judgmental of what you're tuning into, because it's just an aspect of you. You deserve your own friendship and your own kindness and your own love. Many of those parts coming forward that are acting out have been extremely wounded and traumatized, so they do not deserve more trauma and mistreatment. So learning how to mindfully be present with those things in a way that's friendly and compassionate, and in a way that you can continue to ask questions and be curious, and getting more information so you can be more responsive to the core things that actually need attention there. So if we just stay on the surface and maybe we just notice some resistance, we could even kind of hear our inner dialogue that's saying, you can't do this, you can't accomplish that, you might as well give up. And we just take all of that at surface level, and maybe we even enact some helpful strategies where we act in that courage, we take those steps, we move forward, and we do that, and we see progress, we see results. That's great, that's important. And the other balancing piece is, if you continue to meet that same resistance, then there might need to be something deeper below the surface of that needs your attention, that needs healing, something that's really wounded, something that's really persistent. Maybe you had, a childhood of years and years and years of being told that you're not good enough, and that either being implicit or explicit. And that's just embedded in there. So if you keep coming up against the same inner dialogues, then it's getting support or learning how to go deeper than that. And many times that does require actually getting help from a practitioner or a coach or a healer or a therapist, because there's a lot of emotions there. And it can feel really scary, and it can feel really overwhelming when we touch that stuff if we've never even done that work before. And the more scary it gets and overwhelming it gets, the more inclined we are to resist it, because our bodies don't like to be comfortable. So our defense mechanisms to keep that hidden might continue to override everything. So, and the tricky part with that is we might not have enough perspective to even notice that we're doing that, because it is so automatic. We've learned that as an amazing, beautiful skill to survive and cope really emotionally difficult circumstances or physically threatening circumstances. So if you continue to come up against the same resistances, or you get stuck and blocked in the same ways, then it might be that you need the resource of perspective. And that might require you to reach out so that somebody else can give you some of that perspective or teach you the skills to deepen that self-awareness, which is a lot of what I do. Not just about helping you or providing perspective. It's actually really about teaching you to do the work yourself so you can feel more empowered in the day-to-day to actually use those skills, and that you can practice them in the sessions and feel empowered that when you leave the sessions, you can continue that work on your own as well. So far we've talked about, just to kind of summarize, the where you're at, where you're going, the how you get there. And in this last piece, looking at the how you get there, looking at acting from a place of courage, and keeping balance with not just the doing and responding, but also taking the time to do a deeper investigation, to look at what needs healing, to do that as well. I think to actually have lasting transformation and actually experience what I would call physical transformation, where you're seeing physical results within yourself or within the world around you, you actually need to do both. The healing piece needs to be there, and the doing piece needs to be there. And one really is supporting the other as well. So the last part is also looking at the resources around you. Are you resource rich or are you resource poor? Are you more depleted? So when you're looking at your friendships, your relationships, when you're looking at you know, any of the external resources, monetary resources, job, I talked about relationships, anything that you access outside of yourself for your enrichment. Is it a church or faith community? Is it a book or a podcast or a professional? So really taking taking a look at, do I have enough external resources that I would need to be able to make these changes? You know, if you're looking at making physical changes, do you need a gym? Or maybe it's looking at some of the apps that are available that you need to do 15-minute exercises every day. The external things are also your schedule, your time. You know, what are you doing with your time? How are you prioritizing your time to enable success? Whereas instead, you're just really unrealistic with everything you think you can accomplish in a day, and you don't have the right priorities there. So it's fair to say that if that where you're at inventory indicates that there's dissatisfaction and there's imbalance, then your priorities are not necessarily in the right place, that they need realigned, which means your time investment, your energy investment needs realigned. Keeping in mind, it's not about doing more, it's about doing different. It's how can you reallocate? How can you shift? How can you better ask for what you need and want? How can you set better boundaries with your work or your family or other demands being placed on you? Where do you need to say no? Where do you need to say yes? In particular, you know, this is with everybody, but I see this often with women. It's very difficult for them to say yes. It's very difficult for them to receive, because often they're so externally focused on being the helper and the caretaker, the mother or the wife, and the, you know, doing the things in the family, that to actually receive, there's a lot of emotional resistance. There's a lot of cultural resistance to taking time away for self. And I see for men, they also have resistance for it. It shows up in some different ways. So what is your resistance to saying no and to saying yes? You know, boundaries are a resource that we have, that we can exercise, where we can exercise our personal power, our authority, and where we're failing to do that and use that in a balanced way. And of course, all of this is doing so in a way that's not impulsive, it's not reckless, it's not just about taking risk impulsively. It's, can you do so in the most mindful, respective way of yourself and other people? You're doing so with consideration of all of the things that matter to you, and having conversations with people in your life about, these are the things that matter, this is what I'm considering, what are your thoughts, and how can we come up with a plan of action here to make this happen the best? And of course, looking at, do you need a coach? Do you need a healer? Do you need a therapist? Like, is there somebody, what you're seeing in this whole assessment with yourself, is there a need for additional support there? So that's part of the, how do you get there? And then the, not just looking at the external resources, but internally. So what do I mean by internal resources? Your will, your mindset, your emotional state, your values, your spirituality, your relationship with yourself, which means, how do you treat yourself as things happen in life? What's the quality of that relationship with yourself? Is it abusive and critical? Is it neglectful? Is it controlling? Or is it, some of that and also kind and compassionate? Usually it's a mix of both for all people. So if you're leaning into one direction saying, I have a great relationship with myself, I'm perfectly fine, I'm going to start with challenging that and dig a little bit deeper. Ask the question, where am I neglectful? Where am I harmful? Where do I deny myself? Where do I feel shame? Because shame is very self-abusive. Where do I feel guilt? Where do I feel over responsibility? All of that is, not a great, indicating not a great quality of a relationship with yourself. So you're looking at that. Where I talked about courage. How do you assess your degree of acting from a place of courage in life? And what does that look like? So you're taking a look at, here's where I'm at with some of this stuff that I might need internally if I'm moving forward, and what's not strong enough there, or what's depleted, or what needs developed entirely. So many people, again, almost all of my clients that have come in over the past 13 years, they all lack some kind of discipline. And if they didn't, then they would have acted in the things that they needed and experienced the transformation that they were looking for. So evaluating discipline and recognizing that having healthy self-discipline is a sign of self-love and self-respect. So you're also evaluating your self-love and your self-respect. Do you say to yourself, I have nothing to offer, I have nothing of value to the world, I don't have any worth, or it's quite limited, I'm a failure? Well, that's a lot of lack of self-respect. So, how can you take a look at those things? What's missing there? And inherently, as you're looking at what's missing, you're also identifying the solution. So if you're lacking self-discipline, okay, well, then I need to work on self-discipline. If I haven't figured that out yet, I need something beyond me to help me to get there. So when we're doing that inventory, we really need to take a look at our level of arrogance, where we think that, okay, now because I have the awareness that, and I've listened to Amy, and I've done this inventory, and I've taken some notes, and I've looked at this over the following week, and I've journaled on it, I've reflected on it a lot, and then at the end of that, you're like, okay, I got this, now I can do this. And you just take everything that's still just accessible in front of you and you recycle that. And you believe that if you just do that now with this self-awareness, that you'll be okay and you'll make the changes that you need. Well, usually that's the error that people keep making. They have the arrogance that I don't need something else. I don't need I don't need anybody or anything beyond me. I've got this. I'm aware now and I can move forward. Well, I'm going to tell you now that's not actually what enables transformation. It does really require the humility along with that courage to reach out beyond you to people, places, and things that are actually going to nourish you in new and different ways that will enable that fulfillment and enable that transformation that you're looking for. So that's exactly what the transformation packages that I offer are about. There's 3 different options. So they appeal to your budget, they appeal to your time, and what you're able to do at this point in your life. The first focuses on self-awareness. The option 1 is about awakening. And it is a 6-week package that has 3 bi-weekly hour-long sessions, virtual coaching sessions, and also gives you access to a monthly masterclass that would be exclusive to the participants of the program, but continually accessible to you so that you're developing a support system, which I think is extremely important when you're taking steps towards transformation. Things in your life start to restructure, which means they crumble a bit. Your current relationships, you might recognize that they weren't as nourishing or sustainable as you thought they were. So you're left with some holes there. And having immediate access to a support system or different communities, which you would have if you enter any work with me, it really becomes integral to your success moving forward. And the other piece of all of the packages, so the Transformation Masterclass continues to be available in all of the packages, as well as connecting you with essential oils. So we work with the company Young Living. There's a prerequisite to get a starter kit with that company. So you have the essential oils in front of you that are actually supporting your body and making some of the changes. Looking at supporting the mindsets that you're trying to establish and supporting the emotional state of being that you're looking to support as well. So making change requires physical change in the body, neurochemical change in the body. And we're looking at mindfulness practices, essential oils, and other practices, and energy healing, which I haven't talked about a lot yet, to actually enable that holistic change. So mind, body, spirit, how we can look at all of those pieces so that you're not just mentally, emotionally shifting some things. That's important, and that will only take you so far. Using energy healing also helps to connect in with your body's energy and supporting the body in its natural healing abilities. So we connect in energetically to see what the root issues are to the problems that you're dealing with, and using energy work to support your body to release that and make some corrections there too. So it's a really comprehensive package. And the mindfulness practices, essential oils, and energy healing are included in all of the packages. So the option 1 that I talked about focuses on awakening. Again, that's the 3-session model that goes over 6 weeks. The second option is the reconnect option. And this is a 3-month model that includes 6 bi-weekly virtual coaching and energy healing sessions. And it's really designed to take you deeper than that awareness and awakening to actually have you take more time to go below the surface and dig into what it is that you're self-sabotaging. What are those patterns of resistance? We'll actually start to see those manifest in over that period of those 3 months, and we can work with that organically as that's showing up, as you're trying to integrate the changes and transformations into your life. So it gives us more time to actually support the deeper level of transformation that you're looking for, that's going to really kind of last and take enable you to take that into your personal life. Um, and the reconnecting aspect is how you can reconnect to your strengths as well as your weaknesses, and be able to have a balanced approach with all aspects of yourself, not repressing anything, not denying it, really being able to be in balance with who you fully are. And that actually sets you up to sort of the next phase, which is where I offer the third option and the third package, which is igniting your purpose and being able to, as you more intimately know yourself, you're then able to really connect more deeply into, of course, who you are, and therefore what your longings and desires and passions are to do in life. So now you've worked to achieve more healing, self-awareness, and reconnection. You've also battled some of the resistances that are going to innately sabotage you, and you're learning the mindfulness skills to deal with that in a very different way. And then you're getting an extra month in the in the third option, which gives you 4 months and 8 sessions, 8 coaching and energy healing sessions. So you're getting 2 additional sessions in an additional month to look to, now you've experienced more of the transformation, and how are you going to take it to the next level and actually operate from the passions and purposes that you have in your life, and supporting you in actually making that happen during that time. So that's kind of a summary of what the packages are. And when we're looking at the how are you going to get there, these are all designed and enabling success for you in actually having the transformation that matters for you. So I hope you will consider those. Feel free to email me at info@amylohr.com. That's just info at amylohr.com. You can also go to my website at amylohr.com, and you can check out my Facebook page at Amy Lohr Wellness for upcoming events. I also include in the packages bonus access to a lot of essential oils classes where I'm teaching people and empowering them with the information on what the uses and benefits are of essential oils and how it actually enables those transformations you're looking for. And there's also other public groups that you have access to as well. So you can see some of those on my Facebook page, as well as Oils Wonderland, which specifically features the essential oils component. So just on Facebook, you would go to Oils Wonderland to check out the events and what I would be doing there as well. So I hope that you've enjoyed this class and you got a lot of information, things to think about. We will be concluding here, and please be in touch, and happy transformation.